You're listening to WCAN Radio with your host, Clarence Green.
We have a couple of, all the way from Trinidad. Maybe I will start here in South Africa, and then we're going to move to Ukraine, and then we're going to just end with King Clarence. So from South African point of view, we received our team back from AFCON Cup. They received Heroes Welcome. Of course, it has, it's the highest they've reached in the AFCON. I think they said this since 4 years ago. So it was quite a celebrated, rise for them. And they received Heroes Welcome. And then again, within the Parliament of South Africa, there are debates carrying on with the SONA State of the Nation Address. Every February 8, our president gives a State of the Nation Address going through. And of course, this year, they are reflecting on 3 decades of the politics since the dawn of our democracy in South Africa. And just, testing how has the 30 years been for ordinary South Africans. How have we experienced this democracy? Of course, there are a lot of issues coming out of there, lots of challenges, lots of also at the same time, achievements. So it's a balancing act in the politics in South Africa today. But nevertheless, for now, let's just check in. What else is happening around the world with you, Queen, that side in Zambia?
Okay, so interesting enough is that what is happening around the country and what is making new headlines as far as the political arena is concerned is that we have a new political party that has been formed in the country where all political party opposition leaders have come together, and it has been formed in the name of the group. But we all know it's a political party that has started as a movement away from it because they are calling it UKA. In short, they are saying wake up, UKA, in Nyanja language. So it means they are telling someone wake up. And so that political party is has been formed, but with a lot of various political party figures being on the center stage spearheading this movement. So today we have just seen on social media that the name search has been done and it has been cleared. They have also went on all social media platforms, major social media platform in Zambia, this political party, its symbols, and the tag they are calling WUKA, wake up. Wake up, meal is at 130, 330. Wake up, 2.5 liters of cooking oil is at 130. Wake up, a 2 kg sugar is at 56 kwacha. Wake up. They are making all kinds of fun in relation to that. And moving on away from that, we also have the entire country is experiencing the elections of the deputy mayors of each district across the country, because the tenure of office for the deputy district mayor is 2 years and 6 months. So the mayors that we are having, their tenure comes to the end officially tomorrow. But instead of having the elections tomorrow, they are saying we have to prepare for Friday, and then next week we start moving into the proceedings and sittings in the CDF committees. So they thought of having the elections today and elect the new members of the WDC committees of each district. So I witnessed the elections of the deputy mayor being re-elected here in Mufrira district. That was something big, and it spoke volume in terms of democracy and how people, the councillors themselves, are wanting to see the development continue from where they started, and they do not want to experiment by putting in the new deputy mayor into office. We saw a landslide victory in that elections because we had 28 members of the council who took part in the voting. One vote was not valid, and the other person sent in their a message of apologies, but the person that is sent to sit on his behalf was not allowed to cast the vote because maybe they said it would have been influenced because the others couldn't. So the total votes that were cast were 28, and we had 17 out of 11. So 17 won, and there's 11 lost. So we call that as a landslide victory because the council chamber consists of three party members. We have the ruling UPND party represented by 12 councillors, and we have the former Patriotic Front party also councillors that took place. We have 15 in them, and then we have 3 mayors who are independent. But with that being said, when we interviewed members of the public and the councillors themselves, they spoke of one thing, which was one voice, which is continuity and the unity of purpose. We saw to read that they didn't care the deputy mayor that they were voting for was coming from the former ruling party, which is the Patriotic Front. That didn't matter to them because they have seen him work, they have seen how hardworking he has been, and so they thought he needed to continue and finish his term. They finished the entire 5 years term instead of starting to experiment in the middle of the year with another deputy mayor who may start doing something contrary to what the other one said. So that being said, under Mufrira District Council, as the people that witnessed that, it was a plus, and it was a very nice thing to witness because it spoke that we are speaking with one voice, and indeed as a country the unity of purpose comes first regardless of their political affiliations, where they are coming from. So that's what is happening in Mufrira and Zambia in particular, to be precise. So that's what is on the ground here. Thank you, my king.
A lot of political climate change, and I think there's a lot of winds of change also in the country. So we notice a lot of this collaboration with political parties ganging up against ruling party. We have the similar arrangements in South Africa, and new political parties also being launched to take away the outright majority of the ruling party. I suppose is an indication that we will see a different term of office, 2024 to 2029. But before we reflect a lot on those politics that are changing, let's check with you, King Clarence. Is the party winding down on your side of the world?
The party. Good morning to all listeners all around the world. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. For those here within the Caribbean, good morning. We're just around 11 a.m. here, a little after 11. Well, the party ended promptly at 12 last night. Well, this morning, 12 a.m. That's the official end of the carnival season. And at the stroke of 12, every sound and every revelry needs to stop. So that's the law. And then they moved into cleaning up the city, all the litter and glitter and all the people who just took off their costumes and leave it on the side of the road after paying thousands of dollars for it. In some cases, the cleaning department of the country went into gear straight across the country. So by the time daylight, you get up this morning, it's as though you never had carnival. Everything is clean, the streets are swept and washed down, and the city is back to normal. But saying that, the party shifted to the beach. So they go. Most of them would go up to a particular beach on the north coast of the country called Maracas Beach. It's a very nice beach where a lot of tourists visit a lot. The scenery is very nice. The waters are nice. It's really a nice place to go. So a lot of them are either on their way or went straight from downtown. Uh, because you have to travel through the mountains to get there. So it's a lot of traffic going uphill into the mountains. Then you come down into the valley where the beach is. It takes a little while depending on what time you go. But like, this time of the day, people are still getting up there. There's going to be a lot of traffic all day to get there. They're going to carry all their big boom box and the speakers and the trucks and you name it. There's going to be a big party on the beach. Today is really supposed to be a day they call Ash Wednesday, but a lot of people don't really recognize it anymore. But it's a day when people go to church and ask for forgiveness for all the sins they've committed uh, during Carnival and all the womanizing and everything that they've done that they think God is not pleased with. But a lot of people have kind of the younger generation kind of stepping away from it. But today is the last leg of it, so they're on the beach having party. Everybody is in their little skinny dipping stuff and all that. The fun continues in Trinidad and Tobago. One more day until the beach is closed later. So that's what's going on in the neck of the woods here in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago until next year.
Oh wow! No, it's great to hear King Clarence. Yes, welcome to all our listeners. You are with us in WCAN Radio Africa. This is the Situation Room. I am sharing it with the King Clarence and the Queen Nakanyika, Sally Baby. Yes, that is the news. That's what's happening around the world. But yes, we our idea is to bring you fresh news as they happen, and we are going to be talking today a lot about reflecting on the Palestinian and Israeli conflict. There are reporters that are always finding themselves on the battlefront line, going all the way to just get the stories and share what's going down. They're of course at risk always because bullets are flying around. There's explosives happening around. Often it's difficult to protect their lives, and we're asking the question, really, how far should people go in the line of duty to get the story, to get the news? How far should the media houses in the world send and expose their reporters to these kind of conflicts or natural or disasters? I often sometimes see it with bad weather, the storms that they sometimes are trying to go in the eye of the storm. Everybody's running. They are going there to just look at the destruction and record it live. So how far should we be going? With this kind of tactics, what about their rights? What about their safety? What about, so I would like us to think along those lines and open our thoughts. And as you listeners are listening, you are free to comment and share your inputs, inbox it on our WhatsApp line, and I think our Queen will share that when she steps on the mic, and just so that you are part of this discussion. Queen Nakanyika, what are your thoughts on this? How far should media houses allow their reporters? How far should they go to get the story?
As far as the media is concerned, they are willing to work, but at times, not at times, many other times that they fail to do certain things because their safety is most of the times compromised. Very few times that we see that a journalist has maybe a police person guarding her, or maybe someone is with her trying to protect her whenever they are doing the live coverages or anything. At times, you'd see even maybe the president may be dropping from the plane, and she's just pushed by the bodyguard of the president, which doesn't really go well with me. But then when it comes to service, they know that they have to deliver. They swore to their service to the people, that their duty is to inform the people of what is happening around a particular area, around the world, through media, and they have to report. So at times they are made to compromise with their own safety. And actually, it's not even mandated in the laws. Sometimes in the laws, the media personnel are not even protected either by written documents or anything, that if something happens to this person, the government may do this or do that for them, that it is not there. So most of the times they are put in harm's way. That is why in these wars they feel sometimes, should I go and cover? But then, is their well-being being looked at? No, it's not. So these are some of the things as media people we need to start addressing, and see to it that journalists, also reporters of various media houses, are taken into consideration and given the rights to protection by either the police of a particular country or a particular town, in terms of depending on the where they are going to work from. If it is in harm's way where there is a war, or maybe there was a calamity, they need also to be protected, given first aid kits, if anything, protective wearings as well when it comes to the weather, in terms of cold weathers, because they have to provide that for themselves. So we need to look closely into that. I remember very well in 2021 when we are campaigning for the current member of parliament for Mufira Central, Honorable Gordon Mwila. Vividly, we were the media personnel that worked under his team. There were times that the people that were put to guard him would barely look at us, would be running to the same car with the said candidate, running to the same car. But they have to make sure that the MP first, the candidate first gets into the vehicle, and any other person comes out last. They don't care who has been hit, who has not been hit, but they are only looking up at one person. They're only looking out for one person, who is the candidate, and not the media people that are covering the events. So that for me doesn't really go well. Thank you, Mikey.
Wow. Yeah, no, there's a definitely a conscience that we need to ask ourselves. How far? Because I suspect is the onus on the reporter himself to say no, thank you, I cannot go there, or is the onus on the employer? I wonder what the law says. Is the employer, can an employer force an employee to go anyway? Is it about the money? That's where we're gonna make the more money, because you know how it goes in the news business. The more So where is the compromise in it?
A very interesting topic. Media is big business, and it's a very risky business all at the same time. Who takes the risk? Not the CEOs, not the owners of the company, not the in-house host. Who takes the risk are the people who are on the streets. And back in the day when you were a media person, you didn't have such a wide cross section of people globally. So what used to happen is that a lot of times the media personnel within the station would have to travel, and in some cases they still do, to these distant places to cover the news, because, like you said, who gets the news first on the ground, and the risk That's where the money is. You get more for that. You want to be the leading station. You want to be the person that reports what's happening on the ground before anybody else. What media houses has done, however, is in the whole idea of globalizing their media houses, and what they have done is find reporters, begin to pay reporters within the different countries. So let's just say you have a media house in Zambia. Zambia now begins to employ people on a global scale, correspondents, what are reporters, and those are the people that are not really so much in the office. Those are the people that take the risk. So that what happens is that if there is something happen in your country of Zambia, or let's say I'm a reporter in Trinidad for a company in Zambia, then the thing about it is that I am the one has to take the risk because they are paying me to report the news. And if the situation going on is hot and it's global and it's big, like is what is going on right now in Gaza with the reporters being there, what happens is that those reporters on the ground, whatever documents they have signed, and we need to look into that a little deeper to see whether or not you have to. I mean, if the boss tells you, go cover some news downtown in a risky area, and you said, I'm not going, which means you're fired, he's going to find somebody else who is willing to take the risk. You fired, you can't take care of your family and you can't take care of your bills. So you studying, well, this is your boss, and you're supposed to be covered because you have something mark up across you, mark up press. You have a helmet. You have supposed to have some level of protection. Those that are carrying on the crimes or whatever it is, supposed to respect the fact that I have this thing across we call press. So that's supposed to be my layer of protection, that don't touch that guy because he's just here to cover the news, whether it's good or bad. But still, the risk is on the person who is in the area. And I'm asking the question, at what cost? Because you are getting your news. Because even though when we looked yesterday with the reporters that was blown up, I think he lost a leg and an arm, and the other one was badly wounded, and they're both in critical situation. In spite of the fact that these two guys were blown up, you notice the news was still reported. They were not the ones that reported that they were blown up. The people on the ground through social media and other places, those are the people that started reporting the news because the world has changed. You have people on the ground who are witnessing things through Facebook and Instagram and all these things. And they, even though they're not being paid, they are bringing the news because they are witnessing the crime. So at what risk? Because what are the insurances to cover these individuals? What sort of protection do they have if they should get injured or if they die, that their families can benefit? These are the things you want to get into as well, because this is risky business. And when it comes to somebody's life and having to do a job that is so risky, this is not a soldier. This is a citizen doing his job, his or her job, and the risk and the stakes are high. It's either my life or get the news first before everybody. Which one is riskier? Am I willing to take the risk? Am I mandated by the contract that I've signed to take the risk at any cost, so that those that are above me and the news media house itself can really carry the news? It's an important piece of work. It is a very important piece of work because that's how we are informed. I mean, after all, we are in the business as well. But I think the risk is too high for individuals to go into some areas, especially in what we're witnessing in Gaza right now. I think the risk is too high, and there has to be some other way that we can get the news without risking people's lives and the lives of their families.
Yes, yeah, no, you are correct, King. Yes, you are situation room. I am sitting with King Clarence and King and reflecting first on the ground. Sometimes the journalists have to face or brave themselves going into the battlefront line. Sometimes they receive death threats. When they break a very classified story, they run a risk of being taken out because often we know the political will and the political issues that happens in nations. So we are then reflecting on this situation. How far should we, where do we draw the line? What is the moral value or standard that are we, willing to cross to get the story, to be first on the story? For business, how far are we willing to go to make the money? And these are the questions we are asking ourselves. I think if you are listening to this conversation and you would like to participate, you can get us on our WhatsApp line. It's +1 678 856 and 3709. We will be able to engage you on those WhatsApp and attend to your questions. But yes, this is the fundamental question, and I think it speaks to the moral value. What is more important? Is it life or is it money? We are asking, are there any other ways of getting these stories, in a better way that protects? Or what should be the relationship between a reporter and the media house, to protect this relationship? Of course, we live in a digital era where we've got AIs and we've got technology. We've got drone technology these days. Journalists can actually operate also in the safety, and get the camera and get the sounds through drone technology. There are other technologies that can be deployed to get the news and the story, but often it happens that it's real bodies of journalists and reporters that have to be on the ground, and especially when they want to tell the story on both sides. Sometimes it's about, in this case, if it was not for all the videos recorded, we would have not been able to take Israel as South Africa into ICJ, and say this is genocide. Sometimes it's actually the bravery of the reporters that alerts the world of the atrocities that are being committed in real time. So sometimes it's actually a matter of life and death. It's a story that saves, a genocide, because if it was not for some of the recorded media and the clips that circulated in media, South Africa would have, not have evidence to take to court, to the ICJ, without some of those frontline stories that are happening on the ground. And at times, when the aftermath of maybe an earthquake or a weather issue, sometimes you are there because you are calling for support, you are calling for help. Sometimes you raise the awareness that Ground Zero needs all help it can get. Through those medias, through those stories, you are able to get funding to the ground, you are able to get humanitarian help to the ground. So where is the balance? I think we are talking and we're hearing all of these things, and we're asking ourselves, what can be done differently to protect the lives? What about the lives of the reporters? um, we understand the both side of the story. You want to comment, King
Yeah.
Clarence?
Um, One of the things about reporters is that if you look across the globe, reporters are very, 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 especially those on the ground, they're very, very dedicated to their jobs. Very, very dedicated to their job. They're almost like a soldier. The risk they take to bring a story, because the reporting world is a world where every reporter wants to be the one that tells the big story. That's a silent, almost like a silent code with every reporter, because you want to climb up the ladder to get to the point where you are known because of the type of risk that you take. Um, you 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 are known worldwide, or you're known within the organization to be a risk taker, and you come out like a soldier unscaled, or bullets fired at you, your life is being threatened, you're still going to go in there and get the story undercover, or however you want to do it. That's an ambition of most reporters, to be able to be known for bringing the big stories and taking whatever risk that you have to take. But at the same time, um, you have a family, you have a risk of your losing your life or limb, whatever it is. No matter how much you're covered financially, as far as the insurances that you may have covering you as a reporter in the midst of chaos, your life is at stake. Your life is at risk. Your families could go into devastating news can come to them because the risk, you took a risk, and I don't know, you're badly damaged, you lost a limb, an eye, an arm, or something, or you just died, and the compensation is okay. So he was covered for $2 million worth of insurance and whatever it is. Money could never bring you back. Money could never satisfy the loss of a family member. So there has to be a balance. I really believe that it is an important job, and I really see reporters as soldiers. We don't have a gun in our hands, but I see us as real soldiers, taking the risk to bring the news. Just like you said, had it not been for the risk, South Africa would not have been able to have the evidence. A reporter is somebody who brings the evidence. One of the problems you have in Israel right now is the fact that the evidence against what the soldiers are doing and what the Prime Minister of Israel is doing, the reporters are the main ones who is showing up the evidence. You can say a lot of stuff, but when you actually see children being slaughtered, yesterday a car was blown up with a mother and her children, and they had sandwiches and they went to get something to eat, and the car was blown to shreds with all of them. They were licking on the ground, the population on the ground were looking on the ground, trying to find bones and heads and arms to put them together as evidence of what just took place. They took the sandwiches in the car to realize that they put all the things together as evidence to say there was no weapon in the car. This was a little family that got hungry and went to try to get something to eat. The reporters are there to bring these things to the forefront, these live pictures to the forefront. Their lives are being threatened, and Israel does not want this to happen. And here's the reason. Now they are targeting the reporters, because the reporters are the ones who gives the world at large and political figures like in South Africa and other places the real evidence that they may not say and agree that they're on a collision course with genocide, but the evidence itself from the reporters shows for a fact you are committing genocide, and those evidence is going to go in a court of law, and someday may charge the Prime Minister of Israel and all his people with war crimes. Outside of that, you will not get the evidence that you need from qualified reporters who take the risk of losing their lives and limbs to bring this evidence to the world. It's a risky business. Is it as necessary as it is? That's a question I don't think we would, at the end of this program, I don't think we'll be able to answer, but it's a job that we have to look at and put more value on reporters all over the world who take the risk of their lives and limbs and family to bring us these type of news.
Wow. Thank you for that, King. Queen, I see your hand was up.
Yes, yes, my king. In relation to what the king was just saying here, it's very important to note that journalists, first things first, before they join media houses, they are citizens of a particular country, and so it includes that their rights and their well-being must also be protected. I remember in last year in 2023 on the 15th to 16th, 15th to 17th of September, we were making the budget submissions, but I attended that event as a Mufrira budgeting group club, and then members of the media houses were told to list some of the things that they need government to do include in the 2024 national budget. During that 3 days period, we did not have just every single person on a day. We had different people from different media houses every in that 3 days that we had. So people stated one important point that I took note of, and that was they are calling on government to include security for media personnel and media houses because they always cater for themselves. So I think governments need to take responsibility of this because media houses play the important role in their political aspects, in everything actually that is happening around the world, that is happening around the country, because they are the ones that inform the people of what is happening. For example, if we did not have media houses, the press briefings would have been done. The minister would just speak in his office. It would take, I don't know, ages for it to reach the commonest person outside in the rural area, but it took journalists to make sure that the news reaches everyone on time. So it is not a responsibility of a media house. I do not want to tag the media house to be responsible for the security of the journalists that they send out there, the reporters that they send out there, but I feel government needs to put a tag to their security in terms of when they are budgeting for the country for the entire year, so that the media houses themselves will know how to handle themselves, just like they give other personnels and other government institutions a certain amount that goes for security reasons. I think that's my take on that.
Yes, I see. King, you want to comment?
Yes, she made a very, very good point. But if you really look at it, I don't know. In most countries, what I notice is that when a politician is going up for election, he loves the media because the media assists him in getting his messages out to win that election. When he gets into power, most of them begin to dislike the media. They begin to dislike the reporters, because now you're in office, you are held accountable for what you promise the people, or how you treat the people, or what you give to the people. So why is it you like the media when you're running for office, and now all of a sudden after you get into office you dislike the media? The media are the ones who assisted you in getting there. And then the media are the ones who are taking the risk to bring news of what's happening in the country. And in some cases, the government of the particular country goes after the media personnel, because the media personnel know that they've shaped you and assisted you in power. The same media can take you down. And because of that witnessing thing that we talk about, government in a lot of cases, instead of siding with the media and providing the level of protection that that Nakanika is talking about they are against the media, and sometimes you don't get access to get information from them, and they treat the media with scant courtesy. And now when media has to do certain things, they're not as protected as they should be, even from the government within their country. So that's a very important point.
Wow, that is a critical story we are discussing here. Welcome once more on the WCAN Radio Africa. We are having a conversation about the role of media in conflict, in the front line of the battle, and to bring in the story, or so to speak, in the eye of the storm. We are asking ourselves, where do we draw the lines? Where, when do we protect life versus, tell the first story, the role of media? It is clear from the discussion from King Clarence and Queen Nakanyika that, of course, media plays a fundamental role in any nation building agenda because, every citizen has a right to be informed and informed of the truth. And I think perhaps one of my contribution here is that maybe everything has a calling. Everybody has a calling. Everybody knows you want to be a soldier to protect and defend the citizens, or you want to be a conscience of a nation by holding accountable those in power. In a democratic dispensation, often we speak about freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, freedom to know, how national assets are used and deployed, how, taxpayers' monies are used and deployed in the nation, the fairness, the justice issues, they need to be told. Somebody has to tell those things. And again, it's about being informed because knowledge is power, so it's about bringing valuable knowledge to the citizens. So it's a profession that it's really a calling. And I think journalists have a choice in the spectrum of types of news. You've got investigative journalism. You've got sport journalism. They just pursue sports. And others, choose to, pursue entertainment kind of news. But of course, those that want to do live reporting news, those are the one that gets exposed because they're looking for news as it happened, breaking news as it happened. Because if everybody has the breaking news, most listeners and most viewers will tune in because that is the buzz. That's what's happening. And with the number of listeners tuning in on the breaking story, then there is business, because marketers, it becomes prime time when you attract numbers in the listenership. So, of course, we recognize then that there is definitely a key role that media houses play, but I suspect it's a conscience of all of us as citizens, and especially the professionals on the field, that everybody has an obligation to tell the truth because the opposite is true. We've known media houses to protect, and be used as a propaganda machine by regimes that want to exploit their people and cover up stories and cover up, secrets. Especially, we know with the intelligence unit, CIA, they always don't want to expose certain classified information, so they would do anything to extinguish any story that comes up, along those lines. So I suspect there is a balance and there is a conscience that needs to be there for all players. And I believe what the Queen is saying is that all of the, state, departments like police, like military, needs to recognize media houses and journalists as much as themselves, men in uniform. So, which warrants a particular code when you deal with them, whenever they are there in the front line. How do you protect them? Insurance companies, I heard the king, Clarence, saying, all right, what do we do now? Because it's a risky business. So, those that are in the front line, how are they rewarded then? Because you are giving your life at some stage. So if that is the reality, we can't change it. How can we make it, safer and at least assuring for families? Because the bills must still be paid when the journalist now loses their job because they've lost their legs now with the bomb, an explosion or conflict. Yes, these are interesting stories. Before we wrap up, and before we swing the mode into thinking about the people of Palestine as the war goes on there, let's just take the last comment, Queen.
Yes, my king. And actually, the most important thing that we need to also realize is that when media is not doing its best, the people of the country really suffers because they do not have the truth of the matter at hand, because they listen to the radio stations, they watch the TVs, and so they are expected to be protected. We need this protection, and like I said earlier, in the 2023-2024 budget submissions, the journalists submitted that they need a security code being applied, included in in the budget, but the government did not hit to that, but they accepted every other thing that they requested for, like to remove the tax on the goods and services that they purchase to use for their radio stations and TV stations. But it came as a disappointing part when they did not receive the security amount that they requested be addressed into for the media houses. So my king, this thing needs to be addressed critically, and I think it's one of the things that we need to spearhead as media personnel, as media houses, because journalists are being suffered. Some are being shot, like we saw in the other clips. Some are die without even knowing. Maybe it's proper. Do we need to put on something, maybe a tag that will be reflecting to show you are a media personnel and you are not supposed to be hurt? Those are some of the policies that need to be looked at, that needs to be addressed, because we are losing lives. It's one of the most neglected profession in terms of security in almost all of the countries, not just Zambia, my country, but everywhere.
Interesting spin. Last word, King, on this matter, where you want to wrap up before we switch wins.
Well, yeah. I believe in the light of what is happening around the world, especially in the Strip of Gaza, with these horrible crimes that are being committed against reporters. I think media houses around the world, including trade unions, should, and the politicians, we should have uh, a series of meetings or protesting what is happening to our media personnel around the world, especially in what Israel is doing to these reporters at this point in time. I also think that there should be serious discussions within the UN and all these places that begins to either look at the laws or revisit the laws, and if what they're seeing, the atrocities that are being done to reporters and women and children um, in this particular war, I think those that are doing it should be held accountable for it without fear or favor, because we cannot allow this to slip by and become and set a precedence like this that anybody can feel, once we in a war that, you can shoot and wound media personnel. We can't just sit by. The media places around the world needs to get together and have serious discussion and begin to lobby all those that has the power to make the difference and to make the changes or to apply the punishment. We have to do that in order that this will not continue. Because if they get away with this, everybody else will try it and get away with it. And if we set this precedent, we are setting a dangerous precedent moving forward.
Wow, yes, great contribution indeed to our segment today. This is the Situation Room. You are listening and tuned into WCAN Radio Africa. We are bringing you what's going on in the world around, and we were having a discussion about media houses and the risk that journalists have to go through to tell the story, to break the story, to bring the news and inform the world. We've all become so accustomed to checking in on YouTube, any stories, any reporting. We're all listening and we all are staying informed, you know. So there is definitely a value in investigative journalism. So to break stories and being on the front line, there's definitely values because it raises awareness and it causes the world to react. And with this discussion already, there are many suggestions that we need to react and organize ourselves as media and say this is how it should go down. And really, these are the fundamental things that should be in place that protects the journalism and the independency of media houses. And I can see already that, depending who pays you, you want to protect their interest. Maybe there is even a case for a specific national fund that just funds reporters so that they remain independent. They are not bribed by anyone else to tell a story or in any propaganda in any way. And maybe that's one of those. But also, we are noticing a number of independent journalism popping up, especially with the nets and social media. You can easily open your online channel and tell the story, and without any intimidation or fear or any bureaucracy. So there is a need to keep the masses informed in that way. So yes, what a fruitful discussion. Our time is running out. We want to just turn our attention and just stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And we are looking at the conflict there now as no longer justified. We understand when you have to hunt down a perpetrator or a terrorist or a criminal who commits murder, and then you serve justice. But it stops being justice when you now kill more innocent people who were never involved in any murder, and now suddenly you are the one committing murder and atrocities as Israel is doing now. So of course we want the world to know that it is no longer right, it's no longer just, it's no longer justice. We look at it and the world looks at it as genocide. And we definitely cannot just stand and watch while one nation commits a genocide in a generation, just like Hitler did, against the Jews in his time. And everybody remembers that we had to build a Holocaust museum all over even in South Africa, we have a Holocaust museum. Now, it is very sad, to have then Israel being the instigator of a genocide and putting once more again people on a concentration camp and treating them and preventing humanitarian help going there. So of course we would like everyone
WCAN Radio with your host, Clarence Green.